everyone. Welcome back to the Lily Grace Lifestyle Podcast. Today I have Stephen Michael Barron the first on the show, and he just got back from Europe, landed basically yesterday, and his birthday's tomorrow, which is so exciting. The first question that I start out with usually is, what defines your lifestyle, Stephen?
Oh, that's a good one. It depends on how I wake up that day, if it's work or if it's a weekend. So I think it really depends on what I'm aspiring myself to get done.
I like that.
Thank you.
And today, what do you call this look?
Casual LA in preparation for my conference I'm going to next week. This week I'm going Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going for a whole week.
That's exciting.
So it's the Business Leaders Conference. We'll meet hotel owners, network, business development, as well as work in the LA office.
Oh, that's awesome. So you work for Bergmeyer.
Correct.
An interior design firm. You're an interior designer.
Yes.
And how would you describe your childhood? What led you to become so creative and amazing at what you do?
I would say it started with Lego building, Connects, and hand sketching.
I love that.
So growing up, my babysitters would always say if I should be in the creative field because that's what they see me doing all the time. So I actually started in the medical field, oddly enough. In high school, I was an artist, so I did sculpture, woodwork, wires, and metalwork. And then my dad's partner at the time said I should go into healthcare because it was 2007, the recession, 2008. So they said you'll always have a job. So I went into respiratory therapy, doing chest PT, taking blood gases, all that fun stuff, and realized I really don't have the empathy to help people in the medical field. However, I do have the empathy to help people in the built environment. So when I was in high school talking to my art teacher, she had said, go into architecture because it's an artistry that has a professional skill set to it. So that's how I ended up where I am.
Very
the funny thing is, I did not go into healthcare design.
I know. So you're doing hospitality design.
Correct. I'm leading the hospitality studio at Bergmeyer.
Amazing. So you're jet setting a lot, it seems, for all of these amazing projects. Country clubs, boutique hotels.
Brand hotels.
What else?
Those are my priorities right now, but I have done apartment complexes, workplace. I have done ambulatory healthcare clinics.
Wow.
And I've done higher education.
So we're going to be speaking about the language of design.
Yes.
First of all, can you describe what design is for people who are listening who aren't designers?
Well, that's a very large question because design comes in every facet, right? So I focus on interior design and architecture. And I feel like that, in my mind, is defined as how people experience interior environments. So nothing is actually designed until a designer makes that space into a functional program. So to answer your question, what is design? It is everything that we live in. Everything is designed for people, and that's what we're designing for.
I love that. And we're going to get into inclusivity and wellness and how design affects the psychology and the well-being of people, which I'm so interested in. But when it comes to the language of design, what is that?
The language of design is how I talk to my students about it, because it's really, although everything around us is designed and there's a language to it, there is a certain motif to it because it's not just the brick walls, the carpeted floors. There are certain techniques that give us certain symmetry, balance, and harmony to give it the overall holistic execution that we're all so inspired by. So it's important to have an interior designer who is trained and educated in the language of design to give you what you need for what that programmatic element could be.
Totally. And how would you describe your process when it comes to design and coming up with a functional space?
It starts with an interview, like we're doing today. Right. So the interesting thing is I always start big, right? Big general concepts. And from those concepts, then we can dive in deeper into as to why we're doing it the way we're doing it. So for example, we'll work on the country club that I'm talking about. The big picture elements was it's on the water, it's coastal, but we didn't want whales, we don't want anchors, right? That's expected, it's not like timeless, it's kind of kitschy. So keeping that in mind, thinking about those big ideas and how do we take those elements or that language of these different design elements and use them so people can connect with them without being too literal. So we don't literally see anchors and whales everywhere. I think it's okay to have that, but thinking about textures and how those respond to your concept. Lighten, your mood, scale, proportion, so different things that really help to tell the story of the space.
And are you allowed to talk about the project that just got published in Forbes?
I can talk about it.
Okay, so congratulations. Can you tell us everything and anything about this?
So this is a fun project because you'd think it's coastal, but the client group had said that they don't want this to feel like a local Nantucket hotel because that's what's expected. It's what all the other hotels are doing.
Sure.
So we took it into a deeper approach and looked at the history of what Nantucket Island was, and it was farms. So we took this idea of like horse and barn and used that to drive our concept. And we ended up going with a lot more of like European, Scandinavian, clean and modern.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of the work the team did. And we're really excited for the people who are staying there and experiencing it.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you. It got put in a number of different publications. Can you state some of them so people can look it up?
And Magazine, so Nantucket Magazine, Cody Nass, Traveler, and Boston Business Journal.
Love.
And then Forbes as well.
Oh, no big deal.
Yes, and Boston Uncovered as well, which is,
I
think it's Instagram and a electronic magazine.
Your firm is very talented and you have a good eye.
Yes, we are doing, so Bergmeyer is known for retail and we've done a lot of award-winning retail environments. Actually, Dick's Sporting Goods on Boylston Street that recently opened was our project.
I didn't know that. That's
so
awesome.
Definitely check it out if you're local and if you're in the Back Bay area. It's definitely cool.
Yeah, you guys do really fun stuff and you've grown a lot in the past couple of years, which is exciting.
We're over 100 employees now.
Wow,
which is the first.
Crazy. And how would you say, as a designer, you really focus on inclusivity and wellness? Because these are two topics that are huge just throughout the world right now. And how are you kind of tapping into that? I
think for me, what I think is inclusive, it's not just ADA, it's not just universal design. I'm really pushing for multi-generational use because people live in a lot longer. So you feel like everyone kind of talks about like ADA and people in a wheelchair and people who are blind and people who are hard of hearing, and I do believe that's really important, but that's not the only population we should be focusing on. I do not focus on senior living facilities, but that doesn't mean that they're not actively going to these public spaces that we're designing. So I think it's being mindful of who's going to be in your environment and what are they going to need to feel comfortable, but also feel like they weren't pushed to the side when you're designing spaces. It's not all about the young Gen Zs and Gen Xs and millennials. It's got to be for everybody. Oh, I really like that. Multi-generational. Correct. That's huge. And how, when you're walking into a space, do you feel that you're being included? What are some things that really make you feel included or maybe don't? So I don't know if it's really design related. I actually think it's experience related. Design is definitely part of that. The mood, the lighting, the kind of experience of entering a space and then the transaction or the ritual of walking through a space. But I believe it's the people that make it how they are. That's huge. Yeah, I do. I think that's important. Yeah. Because if your establishment isn't doing their part, then the program that you designed isn't going to be successful either. Yeah, that's a good point. And when it comes to wellness, how would you incorporate that? So let's take it from multi-generational. So that's kind of thinking about everybody in every age group. Wellness, in my mind, is thinking about the neurodiverse people. Have you heard of neurodiverse before? Yes. So thinking about people with multiple brain challenges. Those are the invisible handicaps. So you don't always see or hear these people who struggle with depression or anxiety, but they are walking around like common people.
Totally.
They're able to kind of mask those challenges, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't think about that when we're designing for spaces for people. Children is a big thing too. They're
Right.
in public spaces, so think about autism, and thinking about other cognitive behaviors that could affect them based on your design.
And how does that affect specifically the work that you do with hospitality design?
So it affects me 100%, and it's because you really don't know who's staying at your hotel. You can
Yeah.
only predict based on research. There's codes and regulations for certain room type counts that need to hit the ADA factor. But ADA doesn't mean roll and shower. It also could be just the grab bars. So thinking about how to make design feel more universal throughout, so it's not an ADA room, although it has the grab bar, the more space, it still doesn't lack the aesthetics that the other rooms will have. Thinking about multi-purpose public spaces and flexibility, so people feel like they can maneuver around these lobby spaces and not feel like the space isn't adequate enough for them to roll around. And it's
Right.
not just people in wheelchairs, people in crutches too walk around,
Right,
right?
my friend, for him, he just tore his Achilles, but he technically was
He's disabled,
for
yeah.
a little bit of time, and he was saying, I never realized how difficult it was or is to be on crutches and just try to get around. It's exhausting, and like you have to be able to sit and lean and figure out your way through the world. So it's very interesting. It doesn't just mean being paralyzed.
And let's push this about our veterans who might have lost their fingers in
Yeah,
war, and
yeah.
they're using their knuckles to open cabinetry.
True.
So I think it's some of those smaller details that you have to
Yeah.
think about as a designer, of who's using the space, who might use the space. And something I'm always advocating to my clients is, they'll say, well, we don't have anyone disabled that work here. I said, not yet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean someone can't be, just like your
Right,
friend who
right.
isn't typically disabled,
Right.
went through a trauma, and is
Yeah.
part-time disabled.
Right, it's so true. And I tell a lot of my friends who aren't designers, like, they're like, why would you spend $5,000 on a chair? Why? I don't understand.
Why
like,
not?
What? Exactly. Look at all these chairs. But they don't understand the concept of why you'd put so much time and energy into designs. But what I say is that a lot of times when a space is designed well, you don't notice it because it's designed well. A lot of the times you notice when spaces are really uncomfortable or dirty or designed poorly or awkward or you're running into things. That's when you start to notice when design isn't working. So I kind of like to bring that up because it all comes down to awareness.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between contract commercial furniture
Yeah.
and residential furniture or off-the-shelf furniture, but there's still a science behind it. So let's kind of think about generalized, right? People are now working from home more often.
Yeah.
They probably don't realize sitting at their dining table chairs where there's no cushion is actually cutting their blood circulation off on their legs, right?
Yeah.
They probably don't know that,
It's
but
true.
you really do need a cushion under your leg to help keep the blood flowing up to your brain and stay engaged with your work
Yeah.
8 hours a day.
Literally.
But they don't realize that. So it's definitely something as interior designers, we have to educate the public
Yes.
and
Yeah.
our clients, because to your point, why are we spending $5,000 on a chair? Well, it's because it's healthier
Yeah.
because of the way it was designed for the function.
Yeah, my other friend who works from home, he literally said his knees were hurting. He was losing circulation
Yes,
the other day. That's why I
exactly.
laughed. And he's like, how can I get a Herman Miller chair? Because I'm like,
Save your money.
yeah. But how can you get the deal? But it's just funny because these are things that you wouldn't think of until
That's
you're
right.
experiencing it and struggling. So it really does affect our well-being and our health and our mental health, and it all connects, which is important and why we talk about.
And this big change with the height adjustable desks.
Yeah.
Back when they first came out, they had 3 levels.
Oh.
But the average person is probably about 5'5", 5'8", but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean those 3 heights are going to be satisfying
True.
them. So they've changed now so that the motor goes up continuously, so you can pick and choose your comfort.
Yeah.
This whole idea of flexibility, because unfortunately, like even for me, I'm 6'1" quarter. You can't tell 'cause I'm sitting, but as much as I fit in an
tall.
airplane seat width-wise, I always need that extra leg room.
That's true.
But I'm above average, so they don't make furniture for above average people. Same with cars too.
Yes, same with cars. That's so true.
And now, again, design plays a portion in that. So who's designing these cars?
Yeah.
Not tall people.
Yes, that's so true. And talking about hospitality design specifically, because that's where you specialize, how has it really changed post-COVID? It seems like it's booming.
Well, there's a lot more fun, so yeah, that's why it's booming. There's been a lot of, yeah, for sure. I would say, post-COVID, there's been a shift in how we use those spaces. So there's a lot more kind of workspaces and work zones, dedicated business centers. Before it was like, here's a little niche with a desk and chair, and that's like your print desk station.
Right, the printer in the corner.
Right.
Yeah.
So brands are really pushing for this more kind of open lobby concept where you can do multiple things, including work. And then they're also providing more phone booth sessions, so that way you can kind of tuck and hide. They're still providing desks in the guest rooms, depending on what brand or boutique hotel you're doing. Because some people like to have their conference calls right when they wake up or right before they go to bed, depending if they're international travelers. Sure. So I would say that there's definitely a lot more flexibility that are happening in the public spaces and a lot more thought in terms of what is going to happen in these public spaces that makes them flexible and useful. Something that I feel like has always been a trend in general, but they're like pushing for more neighborhood experience. So bringing locality in terms of, our restaurant gets fresh food from this place and that place.
That's
and
nice.
When you're staying at a hotel, there's a lot more opportunity. Like, here's what you should do locally to spend your money and invest in this neighborhood.
Oh, I like that.
And that also brings in the local people to come in and enjoy the space as well.
Yeah, it feels more authentic.
Exactly.
Rather than just going to a chain hotel and be like, okay, I've seen this every other city.
Yes, and I do design chain hotels.
Yeah.
And they're actually pushing a lot more of healthy, sustainable materials.
Nice.
As well as a lot more residential feel and finishes.
Interesting.
So I would say every brand's a little bit different, and they all kind of have their own tiers within the brand. But it's fun to learn about them, for sure.
Totally. And when you're booking a hotel, what are 3 things that you really look for?
Oh boy. Well, let's start with my LA one.
Okay,
I
let's
just booked it. Number 1 was I needed valet because I don't have a car.
Yeah,
so
I love valet.
Me too, especially expensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. If it doesn't have valet, I don't want it.
Yeah. Well, usually I don't have a car if I'm doing business
funny.
travel. This time I'm gonna do.
Look at you.
Because I have to go up north. So.
Are you gonna rent like some Bugatti or something?
Whenever in LA, you need a fabulous whip. So yes, I'll probably do something very LA.
I love it.
Stay tuned. Don't know what that is.
Okay, so a valet.
If you're having a car. Number 2, room types. So I can't fit in a double bed. So it needs to have a king or at least a queen.
That's great.
Oddly enough, smaller boutique hotels don't always have king bed sizes, depending on how small they are.
Yeah.
It's not required. It's not a standard. The other thing I look for is an optional breakfast local, because I love breakfast. So if they don't offer exactly, and I don't want to have to go out and venture in case it rains.
And you just got back from Europe. The European breakfasts are insane, right?
In Greece, we didn't have breakfast because we slept until 1 o'clock.
Okay, that makes sense. Until 5. Got it. Okay, got it.
But in London, they do have great breakfast there for sure.
I love it. And in Scandinavia, we're going in 2 weeks. They have insane breakfast. It's we're going to Copenhagen.
Oh, I've never been. Why aren't you taking me?
Go.
Didn't you take Jill?
Next time.
Hi, Jill, if you're here.
We'll put you on the list.
Thank you.
But yes, breakfast is important. I love those 2 things. Those are like my I don't need a king bed, but that would be it. I'm kind of short, but...
True. I'll spend a little bit more on what... I will say, I've been working on some more lower tiered self-service hotels, and I've had to stay there. And let's just say they were not really the ones I would pick for myself, and they weren't in the most vibrant neighborhoods. So I learned a lot about, the expectations of those guests and what their needs are.
Totally.
And I know that...
Research.
Absolutely. And I feel like those are important hotels because there are certain needs and requirements. But for me, if I was to pay, I probably would choose the next tier up.
Yeah, that makes sense. We love that. I love listening.
But I also love designing every kind of hotel.
Yeah.
So it challenges me and also gives me a chance to challenge the brands.
Oh, 100%. And when it comes to mentorship, this is a topic that you wanted to bring up because you're now teaching.
I've been teaching for 8 years.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a long time.
It's been a lot, and I'm a mentor to interns at my office. I have a team under me that I mentor as well.
So what does mentorship mean to you?
Giving my skill set to somebody else. And I say that very kindly, meaning I want somebody else to be as inspired and excited about design as I am. I have such a passion for it, and I hope that my mentees feel that energy when we talk about design. I think they do. So I think for me, something I really try to push is talking about construction, codes, and materiality, and why it's important to do the design that we're doing. Because I think many times in my class, a lot of students want to decorate, and as exciting as that is, there's a lot of fundamental technical skills that go into interior design. They're not just picking up pillows and paints and fabrics.
I know, it's so true.
You know, there's a durability factor.
Right.
There is, I always say that I design for zoo animals because that is the public.
So true, especially hotels.
Hotel. Exactly.
Gosh.
The headboard detail is the most important because you've got to cleat that to the wall just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Wrestlers, you never know. Kids jumping up and down.
Oh, totally.
So I always say we're designing for zoo animals.
I love that.
Yeah, because that's
so
how
true.
it is. This is a safe space, right?
Oh, totally.
One of my clients actually took my towel and spit on it. Oh. And I said, okay, is that your plan to do that when you're on property? He's like, I just want to make sure you could wipe it clean. I'm like, okay. Zoo animals.
The spit test.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, no, but seriously, you need to think about all of these things. And when it comes to these young designers, what is something that they could do to really help themselves develop their skills on their own? Like for me, I was so grateful Amy opened my world with travel. I feel like that really opened my whole view of design and the way of the world and just how I see furniture.
I would say open a book and get inspired. Ask a lot of questions. I feel like a lot of designers like to put collages together to say, this is my concept.
Yeah.
But the problem is they never actually know how to build it.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to start asking the questions. Like, I want this, I don't know, this textured wall made of wood with this lighting that happens inside of it, whatever that is. But if they don't know how to build it, how does the contractor know how to build it, right?
True.
And my biggest advice I give students is go on a construction site and walk it. Start looking at how things get built in the field. Because we sit there, we're on our computers, and we're just kind of figuring it all out. Well, instead of trying, go figure it out on site and go talk to the people that are building your ideas.
True. That is so true.
That was one when I worked for Wynn Resorts, Las Vegas. I was on the construction design team, so I was in the field dealing with problems and situations where soffits didn't fit correctly, millwork didn't fit correctly, crown molding was off. And we had to figure out those solutions on the site. Yeah. So it's good to really know how things get built.
Oh, that's great. Real life problem solving.
Yeah, for sure.
In the wild, which we love. And what would you say is your favorite part of being a role model for really young designers in this day and age?
Seeing them succeed.
Oh, I love that.
Because I think for them, they're so excited to be immersed in the industry, and I think they're also very intimidated about what the expectation is, and to not be afraid to put up an idea. Yeah. Often I have a lot of my teammates, and I'll bring up 3 schemes, and I'm like, tell them which way to go, and they just give me a scheme. They'll pick a scheme, and I'm like, great, but is there anything you want to refine? They're like, no, it's perfect, and I'm like, but I just don't think it is. I need another set of eyes.
Totally.
And I would say let's challenge those younger people to not be afraid to say, well, why that wall cover and why that pink color? Why did you go in that direction?
Totally.
Because
ask the questions. Dig a little deeper.
Exactly.
And there's this idea just nowadays in general of Gen Zers and young people just not having the confidence to speak out in general, just in life, and not being able to like push the norm because everyone's so focused on their phone. And we were talking about like the TikTok, which I don't have, but it's
I don't have either.
we're not that hip, but it's just funny because like the real world isn't on there, and you're allowed to like kind of push the limits and be able to pave your own path and way, whether it be through design or in your life in general.
I find that interesting because I thought the younger generation is very vocal and very much raising their hand to say, listen to me.
Oh, true.
But I don't know
maybe
if that...
politically.
Maybe they're more activists.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I feel like in everyday life, there's a reservation in a sense.
Especially when you don't have enough information about something.
Right, yeah. And the way that young people are socializing and dating and interviewing, like, it's just like, there's a hesitancy almost because there's lack of practice, I think, due to COVID or just our upbringing and technology. There's a disconnect.
And I think that brings up a good point with everyone being on their phones, email and texting.
Yeah.
Why would they speak out loud to someone's face if that's not something they're comfortable doing or used to doing?
Right, yeah.
You know?
So it's interesting to be a mentor because then it's like, okay, how do I get good answers out of these people? Maybe it's actually sending a poll to them and then like feedback this way and then having a conversation about it instead of in a crowd of people, like maybe they'd be a little too timid to be like, actually, change this.
Or maybe they should be in the office more. So I've noticed a trend in office design, right, that more younger generations want flexibility in terms of working from home. And I think that is so important.
That's huge.
And I think it's important to have equality throughout. So it doesn't matter if you've been there 10 years, 5 years, 1 month, you should be able to have the same equal rights. However, I would think that a junior level person would be hungry for the knowledge and the information that's at the office to collaborate with. So what I would encourage the younger designers to do is to be immersed around all the other colleagues and touch materials and look at materials and order materials and talk to the sales reps and ask questions.
Totally. It's huge. And that's how we all learned.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, back in the day.
I'm still making students make models.
Yeah, I love that. I continue to do that too. And like, actually, like, I'm so hands-on. Would you say you're more conceptual designer or technical or both?
Both.
I could see that.
Yeah, I do big designs and then I bring it into detail.
Because some people can only do one or the other.
That's right.
So it's really important that you're able to do both. How did you train that muscle?
So I would say my hospitality background has really forced me to be more technical because everything is custom.
True.
And learning from my mentors about what that really means and getting that exposure. And my kind of conceptual, I feel like, came a little bit more naturally. But my graphics were definitely a skill set I had to learn through mentors. But I would say my big ideas, they're always kind of out there in a good way.
In a fabulous way.
It's a challenging concept. Like, can you envision this? And many of my clients will be like, I'm on board, but can you kind of change a few things? And I'm like, well, why? So I challenge my clients. I go, like, for example, I had a presentation last week and they said, I don't like the carpet. And I said, why? And they said, well, I just don't like the color. I said, okay, here's another colorway.
Right.
And like, well, no, I still don't like the carpet. I said, so it wasn't a color issue. It was a pattern issue.
Yeah.
So I'm also teaching my clients the correct language on how we describe design.
Yes.
Right?
I love that. You're basically a therapist when you're a designer.
Yes.
And after going to therapy, just for other reasons, I realized too, like, you build a vocabulary of how to articulate, whether it be design or, for my instance, in relationships in a healthy way, like how to articulate how you're feeling about certain things. And for them, it was the carpet pattern, not the color, but they didn't know that.
Right. But it's also up to me because I'm thinking general public, these are 4 people on the board.
Yeah.
Not that they don't have a creative mind or a good sense of taste, but that doesn't mean that the other people, the members of this club, are going to also agree with that.
Oh, totally.
So I need to, and it's interesting because at the end of that meeting, one of the clients had said, I really hope I didn't crush your dreams with all my comments. And I said, I've been doing this so long, my skin is so thick, I'm just here to do a transactional design for you. I'm here to make it look fabulous, timeless, and beautiful. And if you don't agree with some of the finishes, I'll just reselect them.
Yeah, that's your job.
You know, it's
your
another
dreams
day.
are not crushed.
But I find it interesting because in their mind, they think they're crushing our dreams, but we don't just pick the finishes because they're pretty. We pick them because they're durable, that they may be cost effective. They're timeless.
Sure.
We've used them in the past, so we know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
We like the sales rep.
Yeah.
When you pick a product, you're working with the sales rep, especially
100%.
when things go wrong. So it's good to understand who you're partnering with in some of these designs.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And you have such a big personality and energy to you. Like, I love that you have so many mentees and students that work under you, and that at every room you walk into, you're just absolutely like present. You have.
Did you see me in the fashion show last year?
Oh my gosh, yes. Tell them.
You have to see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He basically.
Stay tuned for this year.
Okay. Basically, he walked up on stage and was like, Stephen Michael Barron the First.
With my dead bird on my chest.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
Iconic.
It really
How are you
was.
going to beat that?
I don't know. But first I have to go to a Halloween extravaganza for NEWH, which I used to be a board member for. And that's going to be a really fun costume party.
Okay.
So stay tuned. Yeah, I already have picked out.
I love how every outfit he wears, like he always has a
theme.
Title for it. Like one time it was like Nantucket Grandma, or like
oh yeah,
Coastal
remember
Grandma
that?
or whatever.
Oh, that was a
so
good one.
Funny.
Yeah, and
but
it was LA.
Yeah, LA Cash. We love it. We're kind of both LA Cash. But yeah, so if someone's listening to this podcast, what is one thing that you really hope that they take away from this conversation?
Hire an interior designer for those commercial spaces. And there's more to it than just design aesthetics.
Yes, I like that a lot. And what is just something on your mind that you're really happy about moving into this next season of 2024 in general?
Oh my god, that's a big question. I don't know. I think I'm hopeful for the hotel industry to keep blossoming the way it's doing. And I hope to be a part of that.
Totally. Travel is so impactful, and just everyone's going places. So
I don't know how, because the inflation is so high. I don't know. I don't get it. Yeah, all right, I'll see you in the next episode.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks for having me.
And how can people connect with you online if they want to touch base?
Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook-ish. I don't like going that as much. So through my BAC email, from my Bergmeyer email, or from my Gmail. So they can email you directly for that information.
Just Stephen Barron.
Yeah, there it is.
Perfect. King. Thank you so much.